here we go. Okay, don't talk. All right, so okay, so we are at this is solving a one-step equation, and these are all addition or subtraction. Okay, but these happen to have fractions. Okay, so first thing is if I have a one-step equation, okay, the reason it's called a one-step equation is I do the inverse operation. Okay, in other words, let's say first of all, what is your objective when you have an equation? To solve for the variable, right? Get the variable by itself. So let's say I had something like this: x plus 2 equals 5. Okay, I know you can do this in your head. Okay, but the process of how you actually solve this equation is what's important. Okay, if I'm trying to get this x by itself, okay, look over here. What is keeping this x from being by itself? What's over here? If I you can visualize if I were to put this in a box so that it's by itself. What's over here that's outside that box? A plus 2, right? Well, think about this. In an equation, okay, what does an equal sign mean? An equal sign means one side is exactly the same as the other, right? So if it's like a scale, think about a scale, okay, where two things are exactly the same. If I take something away from this side and don't take it away from the other side, is it still going to be balanced? They're balanced, but if I take something away, it's gonna go like this, right, or like this, whatever. Okay. So think of it like this: if I'm going to get rid of something on one side, I have to get rid of it on the other. So how do I get rid of a plus 2? What would I do? I would do minus 2 here, and I do the same thing over here. What happens to these? They cancel out, and then I have an x, and what's 5 minus 2? 3. And I know that you could, like I said, you can do that one in your head, okay? But what we're going to be concerned with is having fractions here, okay? So these are not going to be, you might be able to do them in your head, but I don't care. I want you to show me the steps to solve a one-step equation. Does that make sense? All right. So let's say I have a problem that looks like this, okay? Let's say I have y plus 2 fifths equals, let's say, 9 tenths. Okay. So if you look over here, and again, my objective is to get the variable completely by itself, right? So if I were to put this variable in a box, what's outside that box? Plus two fifths, right? So the way to get rid of plus 2 fifths is to subtract 2 fifths from here and subtract 2 fifths from here. So these cancel out. So what's left over here? Y equals, then I'm just going to write this out. So I have 9 tenths minus 2 fifths. What's the problem here? Can I just go straight across and say, oh yeah, 9 minus 2 is 7, 10 minus 5 is 5? That's not going to work, is it? They have to have a common denominator. Good. So what we're going to do is can I use one of these as my common denominator? I can use 10, right? So I'm going to keep this 10 here, and that 9's already going to stay because I don't have anything to do with that. Now I have a 10 down here. What do I do to 5 to get to 10? 5 times 2 is to do the same thing up here. What's 2 times 2? 4. So all of this is 9 minus 4 over 10. Well, what's 9 minus 4? 5 over 10, which I can reduce to what? 1 half. Okay? So basically what I did there is I say y equals 1 half. I was able to figure out what that fraction is by going through all of these steps. Okay? It's not that hard. Right? Okay, obviously they're going to get a little more challenging. But let's say I've got one. Let's see, you guys try this one. Let's say I have b plus 3 over 13 equals 20 over 26. Okay? What's the first thing I should do here? Somebody tell me. First thing I should do, Josh? Nope, before that. Okay, I'm going to put a box around this b. What's outside that box? Plus 313. So what do I need to get rid of? I need to subtract 313s, right? Because I want this to be 0, right? I want these to cancel out. And if I do it to this side, what do I also have to do? Got to do it to the other side. So minus 3/13 here. Good. So these cancel. I have b equals 20 over 26 minus 3 over 13. Now, Josh, what am I going to find? A common denominator, right? Can I use one of those? I can use 26, right? So I'm going to keep the 26 here, keep the 20, make this a 26. How do I get from 13 to 26? 13 times 2. So times 2 here, times 2 here. 3 times 2 is 6. So that means 20 minus 6, all of that over 26. What's 20 minus 6? 14. And 14 over 26, can I simplify that? To 7 over 13. Good. And I can't simplify that any further. So down here at the very bottom, I'm just going to write b equals 7 over 13. Okay? You understand how that works now? That was not that difficult, right? Now, let's take a look at one where I have subtraction. Okay? So let's say I have something like, does everybody have that copy down? All right. Tell me when you're done. Are we good? Okay. All right, so what if I have something like this? I've got x minus 1/5 equals negative 3/10. Okay. What's different about this one? It's not addition, it's what? Jada? Yeah, there's negatives and there's also subtraction. So, but you think that's going to change the procedure of how we do this? No. We're still going to put this x in a box. Now, what is outside that box? It's not a plus 1/5. What is it? It's a minus 1/5. So we want that to be 0. So if we want to make negative 1/5 0, what would we do? Add 1/5. So you're going to add 1/5 to this side and add 1/5 to this side. Okay, do you understand why that is? We want that to be 0. We want that x to be by itself. So what happens to these two? They cancel. And I'm left with x equals, now let's write this out, negative 3/10 plus 1/5. Well, I can't do this. Why? Because they're not what? They're not a common denominator. So let's make this a common denominator. Can we use 10? Yeah. So we're going to keep that 10, keep this 10. This is a negative 3. Now, how do I get from 5 to 10? 5 times 2 and 1 times 2 is 2. So I write all of this over a 10. Negative 3 plus 2. Well, if you owe me $3, but you have 2, do you still owe me money? How much do you owe me? So this would be negative 1/10. And what am I going to write down here? X equals what? Negative 1/10. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. All right? Does all that make sense? Now, what would be different if it was flipped around? Let's say I had something like this. Let's say I had 1/2 plus m equals, let's say, negative 2/5. Now, do you think that this changes anything? It doesn't change anything. I'm still going to put that m inside of a box. Okay? Now, this half right here, this doesn't really matter. But this half, is this a positive half or a negative half? Positive half. So what am I going to do to make that nothing? I want it to be gone. I'm going to take away half, and I'm going to do what over here? Take away half. So these do what? They cancel, and then I have m. And I'm going to write this out. So negative 2/5 minus a half. I've got a problem here. What is it? I don't have a common denominator. So let's use, if I have 5 and 10, well, 5 is not a factor or a multiple of 2, is it? So can I use 10? I could use 10. So if I do 10, and I said 5 and 10, I meant 5 and 2. If I do 10, how did I get from 5 to 10? 5 times, so I do the same thing up top. Negative 2 times 2 is what? What? Negative 4. And then I have 2 minus 2 times what? And 1 times 5 is? Okay. So all of this is over 10, right? So I have negative 4 minus 5 over 10. Well, tell me what's wrong with this subtraction thing right here. It's what, Lily? It's not normal. So what do? I make it a copy, add opposite. So this becomes negative 4. This subtraction becomes addition. And what's the opposite of 5? Negative 5. All of this over 10. If you owe me 4 and you owe me 5 more, how much do you owe me now? So this would be negative 9/10. That's m, so I go back over here. M equals negative 9/10. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, the last type you're going to see. All right. Are we good on all of this? It's not that hard, is it? Pretty easy stuff. Okay. So the last kind that you're going to see, obviously if I have something like this, let's say I have 1 1/5 plus y equals, let's say, 2 3/10. Okay. What's the first thing you guys think I should do here before I start moving stuff around? Jada. Improper fractions. Let's make them improper, okay? So 5 times 1 is? And 5 plus 1? So 6 over 5 plus y equals 2 times 10? 20 plus 3? Okay, now I'm in a spot where I can start moving things. So what's going to go in that box? Okay, what's outside that box? A positive 6/5, right? So how do I get rid of positive 6/5? I subtract 6/5 from each side. Okay, that's gone. So now I have y equals 23 over 10 minus 6/5. Well, I'm going to move this up here. So I'm out of room. Okay, so I have y equals, can I use one of these denominators? I can use 10. So that 23 over 10 is going to stay the same, right? How did I get from 5 to 10? 5 times, and what's 6 times 2? 12. So all of this, y equals 23 minus 12 all over 10, right? Well, what's 23 minus 10? I mean 12. 11. 11 over 10. Okay, and what's wrong with this? It's improper. So I can rewrite this as a mixed number. How many 10s go into 11? 1. What's left over? I take that 10 out from the 11 and I have 1 left. And what's my denominator? 10. Okay, so y would equal 1/10. Okay? Does that make sense? Any questions at all? Okay, then I will pass out your worksheets and let you get started.